Hey Jeremy.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
So I'll just introduce you to our viewers. This is Jeremy Britton, and we're going to have a chat today about quite a lot of things hopefully, and hear some stories from you. But specifically I wanted to talk to you about your background in financial planning and being very involved in finances in a lot of ways, but specifically how you started out. So I've heard some of your stories already, but I'd love to know just how you even got into this industry.
Okay, cool. Not very many people actually ask me that story, so thank you for that. I'll tell you the story. Where I grew up was from a very poor background. Mum and dad, one income, 6 kids, so do the maths. And my dad, his father was away fighting in 2 wars, and so he was never around, and he was basically raised by his mum. And my mum was one of 9 with one income. So come from this generations of people who have always struggled.
Yeah.
And as a young kid, of course, you don't know any different. You just know that I get the hand-me-down clothes and I get the toys from my sisters and things like that. But as you actually get bigger and you start to mix with other kids, you realise that hey, life's not like this for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I knew our background, our friends, our neighbours was like this. And the only rich people you'd see were on TV, and that was like the Ferraris and the Porsches and that sort of stuff. So that wasn't real, this was real. But then when I got a bit older and started to mix with other kids from different backgrounds, and you'd find the kids who got 2 parents who both work and they're the only child, they've got different stuff. They've got new stuff.
New toys.
And I decided, I actually remember saying to my girlfriend at the time when I was 16, my ambition in life is to become really, really rich. And she just said, what for? I said, because I don't want to be a burden on my family. And I'd seen my own grandparents when they got old and they had nothing and the family had to support them. And I did not want to be a burden on my family because I love my family. And I didn't want to be a burden on them, so I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I started working when I was 14 years old and making money and spending money and that sort of stuff. Because I hadn't actually mastered what to do with it when I got it, I just sort of got it. And someone said to me back when I was about 18 or 19, because you can sell microwaves, you can sell washing machines, you can sell cars, houses, whatever, but sooner or later people will get to a critical mass. Once I've got 3 cars, 2 washing machines and 14 houses, I'm full, I'm not going to buy from you anymore. But what this gentleman said to me, deal directly in money. If you want to make money, deal directly in money, because people will never have enough money. You talk to a person who's got $1 million, he wants to have 2 million. You talk to a person who's got 10 million, he wants to become a billionaire. So that's when I decided to start working with money. I actually pulled out of university and went and started working as a financial planner when I was like 19, 20 years old, because I wanted to work with money, because that was the best and fastest way to make money, is to deal directly with money. So.
Wow, so it really did have a big impact on you, obviously, the way you grew up, and then just having that ambition and sticking with it. And at that age, it seems like a very young age to become so clear, but it certainly paid off in some ways, didn't it? Because I know that you told me you did end up making a lot of money for yourself and your clients. So I'd love to hear about, from there, what happened next when you started doing that?
Well, I started my own business of financial planning when I was, let's say, like 19 years old, and from my family's perspective that was terrible, because their perspective was you work really hard, you get a university, you get a degree, and then you get a job and you work for 40 years and then you retire and then you can finally do what you actually like to do. And so for me not to finish uni was abominable. I had 4 sisters who'd all done the same course and the same degree and got their qualifications and got a good job, and I was like, I'm going to start my own business. And well, my family said, you were crazy. And of course, I didn't know a lot about business at the time. It was like 8 months later or 12 months later when the business failed and I lost everything. And they went, see, we told you so, come back, move in home, go to uni, start again, get your diploma, get your degree, go off. And I actually went back to uni. I listened to their advice. And I did another 18 months of uni and just went, no, this is doing my head in. I really want to get back in to making money. So I pulled out of, I did a year and a half of uni and then another year and a half of uni. So I did 3 years but never actually got a degree. And then went back and started another business, and then that failed, and they went, I told you so. No, I'm going to start another one. They're like, you're an idiot. But I said, I'm not going to make the same mistakes this time that I did the previous 2 times, because now I'm actually learning.
Yeah.
Like when a baby learns to walk, it just keeps falling over.
Yeah, yeah.
And you keep getting back up.
Yeah.
So, and I've had a retail business. I've sold wedding dresses. I've sold mobile phones. Cut down trees. I've done all sorts of stuff. I actually had 7 part-time jobs at one stage.
Wow.
And just either supporting myself or supporting my businesses, and just keep falling upwards. That's basically it.
Yeah. So with your work as a financial planner and a financial advisor, when you started really getting involved in that and making it work for you, what I was particularly interested in your story is how you'd seen things like The Secret and you'd heard about mindset, and for you it was pointless worrying about mindset because you could use strategy, and you were using strategy and getting results. And so when we chatted about this off camera, it was really interesting to me because a lot of people feel that way. It's like, yeah, mindset, whatever, you know, look at these people, they get results without it. So I'd really love it if you'd share with us some of the stories and experiences you had in being really successful without worrying about the mindset, but then where that ended up for you in life and your clients.
Well, I'm just having a smile because it depends how you measure the success. I mean, after another failed business, I think I was working part-time, I was making about $13,000 a year. And then I just applied myself and I learned some more things and learned some more strategies. And for me, it was very much a left brain thing, and it's probably the education thing that was very big in my family. I learned something else, and then I can actually go to the next level. And so in one year I went from 13,000 to 30,000, the next year I went from 30,000 to 50,000.
Yeah.
And I had my own financial planning business, and the more skills I got, the more money I could make. So when I first started, there was no such thing as compulsory superannuation. You know, there was retirement funds and there was whole of life insurance policies, and new things came along all the time.
Yeah.
Term life, superannuation, changes in that, and managed funds and things like that came out, and I had to keep learning so I could offer more things to the clients and more ways for them to make money. And so I just attached, the more learning I get, the more money I've got coming in.
Yeah.
So I kept upskilling myself, and I'm always wondering, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing? And a lot of people lost faith in the managed fund industry. And for me, I understood it, but it was too difficult to explain to the clients. And when the clients said, how come my money's gone down by 10%? And I couldn't actually explain it to them because the fund manager doesn't tell you what shares they're buying until after they've actually done it. And so I just went, okay, I'm going to keep it very, very simple and go straight into direct shares. And so I had to learn about all direct shares, so buying BHP and Coca-Cola and Billabong and that sort of stuff. And then when I'm talking to clients, they can actually understand, Coca-Cola's gone in because it's winter, people are drinking less. And the more I understood and the more simple I kept it, the more I could educate the clients. And the more educated I kept them, the more they could actually come back to me and say, look, I've decided I want to buy some shares in BHP, or I want to buy some shares in this. And my income just kept doubling and doubling, which was great from the outset. And that's how I measured my success, how much money I made for myself, how much money I made for my clients. And I made a lot of my clients into millionaires very, very quickly by studying different things and going into direct property, which most financial planners weren't doing, and looking at the economic clock. And when the property market is down, then you leverage into shares, and when the share market goes up, then you leverage against the shares and you buy property. And instead of, a lot of people say, if you buy a house, hang on to it 7 to 10 years, it'll double in value. And then the stockbroker says, no, if you buy blue chip shares, hang on to them for 7 to 10 years, they'll double in value. But it's opposite. And so I could actually get my clients to make twice as much money in half as much time by cherry picking both and having the shares and the property. And by studying the economic clock, you always know what's going to come next. So I made a lot of people a lot of money and turned people into millionaires very, very quickly. And then some things started to happen. And like, okay, one of my clients rings up and says, I need to cash in the investment. I go, oh, what's wrong? I've just been diagnosed with cancer, I've got 12 months to live. I'm like, bugger. And another client rings up and says, I need to cash in my money, what's happening? Oh, I'm getting divorced, the missus has left me. And then she rings me up and says, I don't want to deal with you either because you used to deal with him, it'll remind me of him when you come in. So I'm losing clients and losing money. And over a period of a couple of months, I had 13 of my clients who basically blew their money. And one guy actually, he took his $1 million and invested into his brother-in-law's winery, and then all gone. So it was a bit of a wake-up call for me, and I had my own financial issues and my own health issues and things going through at the time. And I really had a little bit of time off work to sit back and think, like, why is this happening? What's the common factor? Why have 13 of my clients just blown $1 million each?
Yeah.
What's wrong with these people? Hang on. What's wrong with me? What didn't I teach them? What didn't I know? Because I wanted to find out everything there was to know about property, everything there was to know about shares, everything to know about the economic cycles and international markets. There was one thing I didn't know, and that was the mindset stuff. I'd never bothered with the mindset stuff because I thought it was a load of cobblers. Let's all meditate and manifest $1 million. And then you wake up and you go, well, there's no $1 million sitting in my lap.
No.
And meanwhile, I'm laughing at the hippies, you know, because I'm there trading my shares and doing my thing, you know, 15, 18 hours a day and making boatloads of money while they're all broke and just meditating. And I just thought it was a load of rubbish. But when I started to look at why these people blew the money and why I was spending the money faster than I was making, I had a very fabulous lifestyle. But you know, when you make a couple of $100,000 a year and you spend 10% more than what you're making, it's a bit of a problem. So that's when I started to look at the mindset, and I discovered the parallels between my clients who've made money very rapidly and lottery winners. And when you get someone who's, you know, buying their $20 lottery ticket every week and they're used to being poor, all of a sudden you put $1 million into their consciousness, into their bank account, and they just go, holy crap, what was that? They're not used to it, they don't know how to hold it, they don't know how to manage it, and they find a way of blowing it very quickly. So that's when I started to delve right into the mindset stuff. I'd already studied the absolute hell out of financial planning and the left brain, analytical, mathematical, tax law and that sort of stuff. And so then I applied the same earnest knowledge seeking into the other side. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to learn about meditation. Now I'm going to learn about mindset. Now I'm going to learn about affirmations, incantations. Well, it's 6 months that affirmations are taking too long. What's faster? And at the time I was smoking and I was drinking and I was pretty unhealthy. And I tried to quit smoking about 7 or 8 times. I'd use the patches and the gum and the, you name it, I tried everything to quit smoking. And then I met a hypnotherapist, and she said to me, like, what's one thing that you'd like to change? And I said, well, this is ridiculous, but I go to the gym, I'm a vegetarian, I'm very healthy, and I smoke. And she just looked at me and laughed, like, yeah, I know, like, if people don't believe that I smoke, I kind of do it in private because I don't want people who are at the gym or see me shopping to see me smoking. And one session, 1 hour with her, and I never smoked again, never got a craving, never got anything. And I went, wow, this is really amazing. And I said to her, has anybody ever used this for wealth creation? And she said, well, 90% of my business is quit smoking, quit drinking, or quit eating, you know, weight loss. 90% of her business. And I'm coming from the money side, going, this works in 1 hour. You know, I've been doing these affirmations and I'm prosperous and I save my money and I accumulate wealth for like 2 years and it hadn't worked. And the money's just coming in really fast and then going out just as fast. So I'm like, I wonder if I can use hypnotherapy for wealth creation. So in addition to my diploma in financial advising, I then went and got a diploma in hypnotherapy and balance out the other side of the mind. And I studied NLP and EFT and Reiki and all these other mystical woo-woo things that I used to think were a whole boatload of rubbish.
You would have been funny walking into the class, it's like, oh my God, I would never normally be here.
Yeah, so he's the corporate guy, but he's still got his hippie love beats, you know, like balance out the left and right hemispheres. And of course, all the people I met on the courses, they were all broke and struggling and that sort of stuff, but they were all happy. You know? And I had boatloads of money coming in, but I wasn't happy. Once I could put the two together, that was fantastic. There was no one else who was actually doing it. And so with the EFTs and the CBTs and the NLP and all the stuff that I studied, I basically took a bit of that, a bit of that, and a bit of that, and applied it to what I know. And I made my own technology, which I call Flick Your Rich Switch. And Flick Your Rich Switch Transformation, which the acronym is FYRST. So I've trademarked that, and it's your first, you have your first session. And now when I see a client and they come in and say, you know, can you show me how to make lots and lots of money? I say, yes, I can, but I know that in 12 months' time you're going to blow it. Just like the lottery winners, just like MC Hammer, who made $30 million and then was bankrupt 2 years later. So if it's okay, the first session, I'll give you a first session, Flick Your Rich Switch so you can actually hold the money. And after that, then I'll teach you how to make it. Because there's no point teaching you how to make it if you're not going to be able to hold on to it. So the first session with this financial planner, business coach kind of guy, is I'm going to knock you out for a couple of minutes, adjust little parts of your subconscious, and then go away, come back next week, and I'll teach you how to make the money. So it's very trippy for some of my clients, particularly if they've come in from the strong corporate background, like from where I've come from, the capitalist background. And I say to people, I'm a hipitalist, because you've got the capitalists and then there's the hippies. Put them together and you've got a hipitalist. So getting people who are like me and very much left-brained to actually meditate or do a guided visualization or something like that and adjust whatever's there that's the problem. And then, okay, now you've got that, then we can get the strategy going. So it really is the missing link between having all of the strategy and no mindset, and that's why 95% of the lottery winners will end up dead or dead broke within 2 years. And the guys who have got all the mindset don't actually accumulate the money because they don't have the simple strategies of very basic stuff, saving, budgeting, reducing debts, share trading, property flipping, and teaching people that you can actually buy shares with no money down. And you can buy a property with no money down. So it doesn't matter whether you've got $500 or $1,000, you can actually buy a property or you can buy shares. And people don't know that.
No, I don't know that.
So it's really interesting. I had one client come to me, she contacted me and said, can you show me how to double my money? And I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. Take a seat. And just so I can get an idea of whether we're going to be, trading shares for $500 a pop, or whether we're trading properties for $1,000 a pop, or whether we're buying and selling businesses, how much money do you have right now? And she says, I've got 2.7 million.
More than most people?
And I'm like, right, okay. And you want me to double your money? So this is going to be easy because we can buy several businesses and several properties, renovate, flip, hold, buy, whatever. And I said, tell me why you want to double your money. And she said, because I'm not happy. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. She said, well, I figure if I had $5 million, then I'd be happy. Things aren't really great with my husband. I don't get on well with my kids. I don't really like what I'm doing. I'm just not happy within myself. I'm overweight, blah, 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 blah. All the reasons why she wasn't happy with her $2.7 million. And I said, okay, if it's all right with you, Louisa, what I'd like to do is I'll show you how to become happy first. And then, even if we only make 3 million or 4 million, then you can be happy on that, rather than saying, okay, we've got to 5 million and you're still not happy and we have to chase it and try harder. Is that okay? And she said, yeah, that's fine. So, and I brought her husband in, and he sat in the corner and observed because he didn't trust me alone with his very hot-looking 60-year-old wife. And with her eyes closed, and she was vulnerable, and just did some subconscious adjustments. And she cried. She had some trauma, past childhood trauma to deal with, and she laughed, and she discovered little bits of joy and happiness that she buried when she was a kid. And we assimilated all of those, synchronized the left and right brain. And it was really great. And she gave me a hug. She gave her husband a hug, and then she went off. And next week, Louisa's not here for her appointment. Following week, she didn't turn up. And I rang her and said, mate, what's going on? I haven't seen you back. And she said, oh, I'm just so happy. Life is so wonderful. Oh my God, look at his butt. He's so sexy as he's bending over the car and doing so. And I'm like, who are you looking at? And she's like, oh, my husband, I love him so much. And I said, is this the same guy you've been married to for 33 years? She went, oh yes, but I just feel like I'm 18 again. And she was just like, I was starting to get uncomfortable. But she didn't actually come back for any of the strategy stuff. She found a way to be happy and in love with her husband and really, really overjoyed with her $2.7 million. And she also lost about 10 kilos in the couple of weeks since we met. She started exercising, changed her career, did a whole bunch of stuff just focusing on the happiness. Wow. That's really cool. I mean, right now I've actually got less money than what I had a couple of years ago when I was really, really into the high corporate world, but I'm so much happier. And people tell me I look younger and I look better. And
I was looking at a photo of you before you showed me in your book, and I was like, you look like.
Is that going to pick up on the?
I don't know.
On the video?
You try and hold it up there, but you literally do look like a different person.
So I'm not sure if that's going to.
I don't know if you can see Jeremy, but he's a completely different looking person now to when you were really busy working like a maniac and hammering away at strategies. And
that was 6 years ago, and people tell me I look older and fatter.
Yeah, and
Right.
you just, it looks like you've transformed. Like physically, you look like a different person than in that picture.
Yeah, well, that's why I call the technology a transformation, because you know, I used to go along to a lot of these motivational speakers and sessions and things like that, and they pump you up. It's like having, you can have the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders jumping on behind you saying, work faster, work faster. And at the end of the day, I sort of imagine like a little caterpillar, and you can make it run faster and, you know, beat it or yell at it or motivate it or whatever to make it run faster. But if you transform it, it can just glide, and it can cover twice as much territory with a lot less effort. And for a lot of people, it's the childhood traumas that they put in there. Like for me, when I was a kid growing up, and I'd see the guys on TV with the Porsches and the Ferraris and things like that. A lot of them in the TV shows, they're portrayed as like the bad guy, and he's a drug dealer, and you know, he's a bastard millionaire who oppresses the workers and things like that. So at the same time as I wanted to make a lot of money so I could help myself and not become a burden to my family, there was this social conditioning from watching TV that rich people are bad, rich people are evil. And I started to meet a few millionaires and multi-millionaires and going, this guy's not bad. He's not nasty. He's just a nice guy. And I'd hang out with these guys and like, he reads fan comics and I'm a big fan of comics and he likes this and getting on well with a guy who's got $30 million and I had like, you know, $300 to my name. And he wasn't bad. It started to shake my preconceived idea, my conditioning that I'd grown up with for years and years and years. And you see it a lot in the media. You know, the rich people are portrayed as nasty or snobby or whatever. And in the book I talk about, you know, you'll fulfill your own expectations. And if you see someone who's like in James Bond, right? James Bond goes and he plays the roulette or the blackjack and he's very suave and sophisticated and this sort of stuff. And that's kind of a nice image, but at the same time, you've possibly also got another image of someone who goes into the casino and gambles away their house, or you know, someone's grandpa's cousin, sister's uncle knows someone who knows a guy who spent all their money on bingo. So you've also got this image of a gambler as a bad person who loses everything. And you've got two programs running simultaneously, whichever one you're more attracted to is more powerful for you. Because James Bond is nice, but the image of a grandpa gambling away all the family's inheritance is more emotionally strong. You're going to gravitate towards that one. So it's really about changing the programming in your head. And the strategies are really secondary, which I didn't know at the time. I was like 99% strategy and just ignore the mindset. And everyone's starting to tell me that's 80% of it's about the mindset and 20% about the strategy. I'm like, whatever. you hippies just go off and meditate in a cave somewhere and I'll be over here counting my millions. But then, you know, people go too far the other way. And they spend all their time on the mindset and they don't have any strategies. They never actually invest. They never take the first step. They never buy an investment property. And my folks didn't buy their first shares until they were over 65, and that's when I bought them for them. They never bought an investment property, they never actually did anything like that. And a lot of people don't do that because they either don't know or they've got a fear attached with it. Because you always know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who lived next door to the lady who knows the tea lady who lost money on the share market. Well, that was 1929. You can't hang on to that, the share market is evil. It's no, just grandpa made a bad decision. And you get back up and you try again. And there's always someone who's lost money on investment property, but does that mean we should never ever invest in property ever again? Well, maybe just learn a few lessons. And with me, you know, I say a new business, 85% will fail within the first 3 years. And I've had a couple of businesses that failed. But does that mean I just never do that again? You get up, dust off, learn a lesson and try something different the next time.
Go for the next one. So the hypnotherapy part is fascinating. I have heard you talk a little bit about it. Do you find that, you know, when you take that as your starting point and then you go on to work with the strategy after, is it really just one simple session to help change those subconscious beliefs and then people can start working on strategy? Or do you find that with clients it does vary?
I found that I was actually the worst hypnotherapist in my graduating class because the statistics are, for normal psychotherapy, you see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and the success rate for that is documented 38% success after 600 sessions, because you're working on the conscious mind, you're working on the tip of the iceberg. And with hypnotherapy, the success rate is 93%. After 6 sessions, because you're working directly on the subconscious. And what they said to me is, you want someone to quit smoking, you want someone to lose weight, you book them in for 6 weeks and they keep coming back. But as I found with Louisa and a couple of my other clients, they just never came back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, crap. They don't come back, so I don't make any money the next week. I don't make any money the next week. So I just had one session with a client and then it was done. And I had a guy the other day who said, he contacted me and said, look, I want to take you on as my coach, I want you to help me out, but I can't afford your services.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let's look at it, make out a way. He was spending $150 a week on cigarettes.
Yeah, well.
Okay, let's get rid of the cigarettes and then you can afford my services. And he said, okay, we'll do it.
Beautiful.
One session, 1 hour, bingo, he's not on cigarettes anymore. So if I was only a hypnotherapist who's getting rid of cigarettes, then I'd go broke.
Yeah.
But because I can actually coach him through the next level.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I'm fabulous, I'm just saying I'm terrible because I just did it too well.
Yeah.
And that's probably because of where I've come from with the massive learning, and because I will involve NLP, CBT, EFT, Reiki, whatever it takes, I just will not stop until that person has their result. And I've had some 1 hour sessions that have gone for 2.5, 3 hours because I will not quit until they actually crack. Either you'll crack or I will. I just don't give up.
Hopefully you don't crack when someone's in a session.
So, but having said that, sometimes it's like layers of an onion.
Yeah.
And I've had one lady who come in and said, help me out because I've got these problems in my business. I'm employing 5 staff and I'm working really hard and I'm unhappy and blah, blah, blah. And after talking to her for like 5 or 10 minutes, we kept going off on little tangents and then stopping and going on a tangent and stopping on a tangent and stop. So there's something here that you're not telling me.
Okay.
And she broke down and she told me that she'd been severely sexually abused as a child and there was all this trauma in the back of her head. So, okay, let's work on that first. And we don't need to go into the blow-by-blow description of what happened or who it was or but just the feelings associated with that.
Yeah.
We got rid of that and then that actually freed up a lot of stuff. So she could come back and then we could start talking about the business and a relationship with her husband and money things. So sometimes there's layer upon layer upon layer. It's not always one session, but it's usually one session to get rid of one thing. Yeah. And then next time you come back, we'll work on different things.
So how long have you been doing the more holistic approach, so where you work with hypnotherapy and your own, the work that you do, that you sort of said you combine a whole lot of things, the NLP, etc., and then strategy, is that something you've been doing for the last couple of years or longer?
Yeah, last couple of years I've been doing that.
Yeah.
I've spent probably 5 or 6 years learning about all the different things, and I didn't get my hypnotherapy degree straight away. I came up through the Tony Robbins and the Harbecker and these kind of guys, learning from these guys, but just always looking for what's faster, what's better, what's more effective, what's quicker, what works better, and getting to the state where I can actually just knock someone out, make a few little adjustments and then bring it back in the room, and within 5 minutes you've saved them from 3 months or 6 months of psychotherapy and zero progress.
So in the time then that you have been, you sound like you've really fine-tuned this and got it working perfectly for what you were trying to help your clients accomplish. What kind of results do you find in your own life and for them? Because it sounds like the stories you've already told, they're quite amazing results, but they just sound like it must be a completely different experience for you and for them compared to the work you were doing for so long just on the strategy minus the mindset. Yeah,
well, I mean, I don't have a lot of friends now who I used to have simply because we don't have anything in common anymore.
Yeah.
But people who meet me, who knew me years ago, like when that picture was taken, and I used to smoke a lot, I used to drink a lot, I used to live a very unhealthy lifestyle, and I was probably working about 17, 18 hours a day on most days, on weekends as well. And I was very unhappy and I was overweight, and it was just, that's who I was, and gradually little things fall off. And even when I was financial planning, I'd never put your money into an investment if I wouldn't put my money in there.
Yeah.
And I refined that over a couple of years because the more I understood, I would take higher and higher risks because I understood the risks, whereas a normal person wouldn't actually do some of the things that I did. So then I refined and said, okay, if I wouldn't put my mother's money in there, because she didn't understand a lot of stuff. If I wouldn't put my mother's money in there, then I wouldn't actually do it. I always tested things on myself before I recommended to clients. I'd never recommend a client do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And so with all the things I've been learning, I practiced on myself. And year before, whenever it was, I'm over it.
I know, I'm like time.
I went through a whole boatload of stuff, and I lost my daughter, I lost my father-in-law, I lost my business, I got betrayed by my partner, my marital partner, my business partner. This whole boatload of stuff happened at once. I ended up homeless.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and it was really a lot of stuff that I needed to shake off. I didn't realise it at the time. And I just absolutely hit rock bottom. And I went to the doctor because I just felt so bad physically. And the doctor said, I just feel like this little thing, and went, oh my God, you're clinically depressed.
Yeah.
I went, what does that mean? And he said, well, actually the results that you've got on here, we have to put you on suicide watch. And I'm like, well, like I knew I was sad after all this crap that happened, but who wouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
And he said, well, take these antidepressants and we're going to put you on suicide watch because we don't think you're a danger to others, but we do think you're a danger to yourself. Like, you're that bad, we reckon you're not going to make it through Christmas. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
And I went home, I took one of these pills and my whole body just went spastic, like I was electrocuted.
Wow.
And I haven't taken speed or been electrocuted by high voltage, but I imagine that's kind of what it's like. And I was shaking so much and I couldn't actually stand up. I had to crawl to get to the toilet. And I was sleeping on the floor of a garage of a friend's place at the time because I was homeless. And I said to her, like, I feel really bad. I've taken this pill and it's, they tell me to keep going with them for 9 or 10 days, and then the side effects wear off and then you're okay. And I said, I don't want to take them anymore. It makes me feel really bad. I can't stand to have 9 more days of this. I'd rather shoot myself. And she said, oh, those are the pills I'm on.
Oh, wow.
And I went, what? I've known you for 8 years and you never told me that you were taking antidepressants. And she said, oh, when my husband died, they got me on these antidepressants. I'm like, well, your husband died, you were sad. That's what happens. And she said, yeah, and I can't go off them. Because once I stop taking them, then I have those side effects again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to get hooked on these things that feel this bad when you come off. So I chucked the rest of the pills out. And I was absolutely at my lowest right then. And I was talking to someone, and this guy was a Vietnam veteran. He'd come back from Vietnam, a lot of his friends had been killed, he'd killed a lot of people, done a lot of bad stuff, and he was in a very low space. And he said, I did this course called the Vipassana. That's 10 days and you meditate and do this sort of stuff. And it really changed my life. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that sounds really nice. And then the next day I was talking to someone completely different. This is the hypnotherapist chick. And when I was kind of quit smoking, because I was smoking back then a lot when I was depressed. Yeah. And she said to me, there's one thing that I've done that I really loved is the Vipassana course. I'm like, wow, it's 2 different people who said it on 2 different days, one from Mullaney, one from Brisbane, never met each other. Like, I don't know what this thing is, but I'm going to book in for it. It's obviously a sign. And I was looking for something. And they told me, like, you can't take a mobile phone, you can't check your email, there's no contact with the outside world, no phone calls, no emails, no nothing. You basically just disappear for 10 days and then come back. Yeah. And I kind of went, okay, it's either this or I kill myself. Because I really want the change that badly. Yeah. Everything that could possibly have gone wrong actually went wrong. And so I went and did the course. And it really was a transformation. Like, I went in there suicidal and I came out like a 5-year-old kid, and I was just so happy being in the world, and everything's so amazing and everything's so wonderful. And the things that I used to do that I didn't enjoy, I now enjoy a lot more. Yeah. And simple things, so I don't have to go to bed with half a bottle of bourbon every night. I don't have to wake up and have cigarettes. I wake up and I go for a walk on the beach, and in the afternoon I sit and meditate for half an hour and calm down and go to bed. And it's really cool because I spend a lot less money than what I used to in the high stress world. Yeah. And I'm a lot happier, I'm a lot healthier, I'm a lot more in touch with my body, I'm a lot more connected to people that I love. And it really is, it's just a remarkable transformation. Yeah. And so now I do different courses, and I'll recommend my clients, I'll go and do this course and go and do this course and go and do that. Yeah. Not necessarily the 10 full days, but there's some courses you can do that are 2 days and 3 days. Yeah. That I've tried them on myself. Yeah. And even last weekend I went back and did a course a second time that I'd already done. Just to get it at a whole new level and really understand it. And it's just amazing. All the things I do to myself, and it's you benefit from this. This would be really cool. This is what worked for me. Yeah. But every day is just fantastic. Yeah. Wow.
I've actually done Vipassana. But we'll have to talk about that more off camera because it's fascinating. It is something that a lot of people have had amazing results from doing. It's hard to put it into words.
My wife cried when I came home because she'd seen what I was like when I went away, and I was just like worst. And when I came back, she just cried and cried and cried. And like she said, what happened to that guy? Like, what happened to the guy that I saw 2 weeks ago? I said, I think he died. He died, and I buried him up in the mountains there. And this is the new me now, you know. And she was like, well, she loved the new me, but she was kind of thinking, well, is it going to last? Is it going to last? And it has. You know, I meditate on my beach there now, and I check in every morning. I go down and take a picture of the sunrise. I've gone over 180 check-ins on that beach at sunrise.
Wow.
And the last 12 months, I'm either on the beach there or I'm somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I just keep up that habit and just keep that joy and that enthusiasm and that energy. I sleep a lot less and I do a lot more, and I'm happy about it. Rather than working because I think I have to.
Which is a good thing. So I guess it'd be great. I haven't got. Do you have a watch on, Jen? How are we for time? Okay, I'll edit this little bit out. But we'll just wrap up shortly. I'd love to know from you, in all of your experience with working with a lot of people, if there's any kind of information you think people need more than anything, you know, if they're struggling financially, or the thing that you think people most miss and most need to get about this whole thing to figure it out, you know, the money game, and where to go with that. Because it does seem like, you know, I'm sure you know, it's one of the big struggles people have. You've got the weight and the, you know, smoking, drinking, those things, but then money seems to be one of the other big things that people really struggle with. So I'd love to hear, you know, from your experience, what you think is really useful to give people in that sense.
Okay. Well, everybody's different, but there's a lot of commonalities. And you know, I might see 50 clients, but you'll go, oh, this one's a bit like that one, and there might be 5 kind of stories that are sort of similar. And I've actually had more than a dozen of my clients who have come into a boatload of money, not by my hand, but they just walked in and said, look, I've got this big check. And there's the lotto, Keno, the bingo, Compo. Had one of my clients who got more than $1 million in Compo. And yeah, there's all these other different things where you can just get a massive amount of money. And this is also what led me on to looking at the lottery winners, because the lady who got the Compo, she fell off a horse and broke her back, and then she was all right, but she took a lot of time off work. She got $1.3 million. And she invested it with me, but little by little she actually took the money out and spent it. And I sort of look at, you know, everybody hears the statistics about the lottery winners. 95% of them who win will blow it, or blow their brains out within 2 years. They don't tell you that statistic.
No, they're probably not allowed to.
But it's true, because they can't hold on to the money. And if you're in a situation at the moment where you can't manage the $10 or the $20 or the $50 or whatever you've got, then for God's sake, you're not going to be able to manage the $100,000 or the $2 million when it comes in. And I kind of compare it to, like, if you've got a glass and it's got a little crack in the side, I can pour some water in there and you can drink and it's okay. But if you've got a little crack in the glass and you say, fill up my glass, and I turn on the fire hydrant and go, it's going to shatter. And you've really got to make yourself strong and fit and able to actually handle that. And then it's going to show up, and it's not going to kill you when it does. Because it's funny, a lot of people have got this negative association with money. While they want it, they think it's going to destroy their relationship. Because that's what happened to Susie, that's what happened to Freddie, and so-and-so left his wife, and so-and-so blew all the money. And there's a lot of people who have that negative association with money. So at the same time they want it, they're also pushing it away. Or they've already got a plan for how they're going to self-destruct when it actually shows up. And the people who win the lottery sometimes are people who are on like $40,000, $50,000 a year. And although they feel uncomfortable, it's still part of their comfort zone. Their friends are all on a similar income, they all drive similar cars, live in the same area, and mum and dad are okay with it. I had one of my clients who managed to accumulate, come from a poor background, and made over $5 million while he was in his 20s. No money down property he was doing. Okay. And all of a sudden, like, his biggest conundrum was, well, will I drive the Ferrari today or will I drive the Maserati? And his sister was a single mum on the pension. His dad was retired on the pension. And their biggest thing was, well, will I buy the no-name baked beans or the no-name Tim Tams? How will I pay my rent this week? But they had nothing in common with him.
Yeah.
And I got to meet Michael, and after he'd actually managed to blow the money, right, he came to me and said, look, I had 5 million, now I'm 3.5 million in the hole. I spent $8.5 million in the last 12 months, blew it on dodgy investments and things like that. He's like, teach me the strategy so I don't do that again.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it, was so simple for me because I was on the outside. I wasn't attached to his family relationship. And I looked at it and went, how's the relationship with your dad right now? Oh, it's good, Dad. We talk every couple of days. And your sister, oh yeah, I've been staying with my sister for a while. I'm like, I can see why you blew yourself up. You know, subconsciously, you deliberately made all the wrong decisions so that you could actually reconnect with your dad, because your dad didn't talk to him for a couple of years, and his sister stopped talking to him because they had nothing in common. So he blew all the money, all of a sudden he's connected to his family again. So I said, okay, we need to work on the mindset. His strategy was fine, by the way, he just did some silly things. Need to work on the mindset so he can actually bring them up with him and help them and coach them along the way so he doesn't lose that connection. And there's so many people who will blow their lottery winnings because they're more comfortable in their $50,000 life. They're not comfortable with $1 million life. And when your friends only talk to you about the money and can I borrow some money and that sort of stuff, they think the money creates the problem. But it's not the money that creates the problem, it's the money that reveals the problems that were already there systemic in the relationships. And you need to heal those first. So, and this is why some people also have the thing like, oh, money's going to ruin my life. I'll still buy the lottery tickets. But they've also had a strong upbringing where you mustn't waste. Like you mustn't waste the food. You've got to finish everything on the plate, and you don't throw things out. So all of a sudden they get the $1 million, and part of the subconscious is going, well, we better get rid of this money because no one's going to talk to us. We'll lose all our old friends, and we'll have to go to the opera and wear a top hat and be part of the la-di-da hoity-toity. Like they're not comfortable in that, but they're also not comfortable wasting the money. So there's a large percentage of people who win the lottery who will actually commit suicide because they want to get rid of the money, but they've got this thing, I can't waste it. And that's the statistic they don't tell you. So people say, oh, it ruined my life. It's no, your life was a bit of a mess beforehand. Just someone turned on the water too fast.
And it showed it all up.
So it's funny. Like I used to have a program for teaching people to make $1 million in 7 years, and then you can make it in 5 years, then you can make it in 3 years. But you've got to work on yourself at the same time, otherwise you're going to blow it. And that's the stuff I didn't know, but I've now learned.
So it does sound like it really has to work together. You have to work with the mind, but you work with strategy as well. And one without the other doesn't get you what you want, basically.
I do something at my seminar. There's an icebreaker. So okay, anybody who loves The Secret and the law of attraction, that sort of stuff, put your hand up and grab that person and say, okay, you're going to run towards me with your right leg. You can only use your right leg, nothing else. And someone else say, okay, who believes all the strategy? They've been to all the workshops on how to accumulate property and how to do this and how to trade the shares, and they've been to all these sort of things. You're going to run towards me with your left leg. And then anybody who believes that actually needs the mindset and the strategy, you can run towards me with both legs. And then we get someone to hold up $1 million and say, go. And the mindset people are trying to run with one leg, and the strategy people are trying to run with the other leg, and the person who's got both just goes doop, 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 and takes it. So, I mean, you see people like Donald Trump, and Donald Trump goes from billion to bankrupt to billion to bankrupt, and has repeated the pattern 4 times. And he keeps bouncing back up, not just to a millionaire, but to a billionaire. Because he's got the mindset of a billionaire, and the strategies fall down sometimes, but then he just brings them back up. And other people who have come out of nowhere make a massive amount of money and then disappear because they've still got the mindset of a poor nobody. They get all the money, all the fame, and then they disappear. So you've really got to have both and keep building them up. Left leg and right leg.
Beautiful. And so just before we wrap up, Jeremy, on your website, is there anything in particular, if people want to find out more about you and your work or the workshops you do, is the best thing to do to go to your website? I know you do YouTube videos as well.
Jump onto my website. I do YouTube videos. I've got about 60 now. Because sometimes when I go and meditate on the beach, I come up with an amazing thought. And I just share those. So if you want to see me unshaven and wrapped in a blanket and sitting out on the beach looking like a hobo, you've got the YouTube videos. But there's often a lot of good information there that just comes to me from out of the ether. I don't even know where it comes from. But connect with me through there and learn a lot of stuff. You can actually grab a copy of my book from the website. You can get the ebook. that's my first book, Who's Taking Your Money and How to Get Some of It Back. So that's all about strategy.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, which stocks, which shares to buy, when to buy property, when to sell shares. Very much strategy.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on 4 new books, which are more about the mindset and a little bit of the strategy, just to balance things out. But you can get a copy of that one by jumping onto the website. You can buy the hard copy, otherwise you can join the mailing list and you get the ebook for free. So it's very cool.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for all of that information today, Jeremy, and the stories.
You might have to slow the camera down because sometimes I talk fast when I get excited.
Yeah, it was lovely speaking to you, and thanks for sharing that information.
Thank you.
Cheers.